It's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body, Hesselsen's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is the start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselsen's is still locally and family owned and operated in Elmira Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's. Hesselsen's is still locally and family owned and operated in Elmira Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's. Is still locally and family owned and operated in Elmira Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's. Hesselsen's is still locally and
At Simmons Rockwell, you'll find brand new 2026 Chrysler Pacifica Select all-wheel drives for only $44,999 during the Declaration of Deals event going on now at Simmons Rockwell Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Bath.
Today's students are tomorrow's great thinkers and innovators.
What can this fall teach us about the way things move?
But right now, millions of kids go to schools that don't have the supplies they need just because of where they live. Donors Choose is a nonprofit that lets you support students and teachers in your community and beyond. You could supply a classroom like this one with a project. But what you're really giving is the moment that sparks a brighter tomorrow. Learn more at donorschoose.org.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers. We can enjoy a comfortable day out there. Temperatures a bit on the warm side with 68, some sunshine and a west-northwest wind. A bit on the mild side overnight, partly cloudy skies, low near 40, then low 60s on Friday. Friday night through Saturday and Saturday night is the next widespread chance for some showers. Then drying out on our Sunday and Monday. Additional rain expected come Tuesday and
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Hakem. We are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio. And in that studio, it's time to talk arts in bloom. Thanks so much for being on the program.
Thank you very much for having us.
All right, so this has been going on. We were talking out there for quite a few years now. But tell us, for those that aren't aware, what is Arts in Bloom?
So,
Arts in Bloom is a self-guided studio tour. There's 9 different venues.
Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Hakem. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. I'm so glad that you've joined us. We've got a busy morning in store because we have comments, we have New York State updates, Iran updates. We also are going to hear from Arts in Bloom, which is coming up this weekend. You're going to find out all about it in Corning and Elmira. That's in the 7 o'clock hour. Let's first go to viewer comments. Mark writes in, good morning. Good morning, Mark. I see the Senate finally passed funding DHS, and they sure did rip into Kennedy at his hearing on vaccines, especially on measles vaccines. Yes, I did see that on Kennedy. We're going to talk about the DHS funding that broke late last night. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Comment from a different viewer. Hi, Frank. Well, hi. For your information, just got a flyer from the Board of Elections. Chemung County has had a gerrymandering, or however you spell it. Yeah, I'm with you. It's Gerry, but gerrymandering, I've been told I say it wrong. Jerry or jury, however you want to say it. Anyway is correct here. Anyway, my place to vote has changed from Elmira to Southport. My guess is that people from Southport tend to vote Republican and Elmira Democrat. Any thoughts regarding this redistricting? I had not heard about this. This is interesting. I would love, because I know we have, obviously, a big viewership in the Chemung County area. Your thoughts on this redistricting, if you could weigh in on. And next time we have a guest from Chemung County, which as election season nears, I know it's hard to say that at the end of April, but it is, especially with primaries coming up in June. We will have numerous candidates on from various positions, and we'll have to make sure to ask them about this. But again, to our Chemung County friends, we pose a question. What are your thoughts on this redistricting in Chemung County? Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. As I'm watching news this morning, I saw that the UK has passed a law that would ban the sale of tobacco products to anyone born after some date I didn't catch. I bring this up to your attention only to suggest if this isn't a prime example of a huge step towards a communist government. I don't know what is. What do you make of it? That's a great question. We brought it up quickly on yesterday's program. I believe the date was anyone born after 2028 would not legally be allowed when they turn, I am assuming UK is 21, just like here in the United States. When they turn 21, they will not be allowed to buy tobacco products. What scares me, and I understand what you're saying, a step towards a communist government, full control, absolutely. We can all go through the argument of you can serve your country, you can vote, but you're not allowed, you can't handle the responsibility of purchasing tobacco products if you so choose. I think it's a prime example of heavy-handed government. My fear, as we've seen the attacks on Brown Cigar Store, as we've seen talks of a huge increase in tax on those, I don't know what you call them, but tobaccoless nicotine products that help people quit, help people get away from cigarettes and chewing tobacco. Huge tax on them in New York. My fear is that this will be eventually put forth in a New York state, in a federal government law. The problem with this, and it's a dirty little secret that no one wants to admit, the states love the taxes. For instance, on a cigar, 75% of your cost of a cigar is New York State taxes. So it's that dirty little secret they don't like to admit of how much their budgets depend on the sale of tobacco. So it's a little bit of a tough sell. They like to show that they quote unquote care. How do they care? Well, they're going to raise the taxes so you quit. Now, I always hate when they have those articles because someone will say, yeah, this is just the umph I needed. They're getting too expensive. This is just what I'll need to quit. Well, just quit. Some people don't want to, and then the cost becomes exorbitant. So I do believe, I know this viewer didn't ask this, I do believe this will be proposed in a far left state, California, New York, something like that. And I do believe it's just a prime example of too much government overreach trying to protect you from yourselves. And we know the government can't even keep their own house clean. Okay, a couple quick things, and this is to Mark's point. Senate Republicans pushed their immigration funding plan forward early Thursday, adopting a budget blue plan, that's good, Frank, a budget blueprint after an all-night vote series that sets up billions for ICE and Border Patrol while sidelining Democrats. Senate Republicans adopted their budget resolution, which tees up funding for Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Border Patrol and effectively cuts congressional Democrats out of the process entirely. It's the first major step towards unlocking the budget reconciliation process, which Republicans are diving into once again after Democrats refused to fund ICE and Customs and Border Patrol without stringent reforms. Despite Republicans largely being on the same page on the approach, Senator Rand Paul and Lisa Murkowski voted against the budget blueprint. Surprise, surprise. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer panned Republicans for moving to spend billions in taxpayer dollars rather than addressing rising costs. Quote, America is crying out for relief from high costs, and you're here adding $140 billion to an agency that nobody, two groups, Border Patrol and ICE, that nobody respects in this country. Let me ask this to the viewers tuned in. Do you respect Border Patrol and ICE? That is our senator, the Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer. Let me read that quote again. Quote, America is crying out for relief from high costs, and you're here adding $140 billion to an agency that nobody, two groups, Border Patrol and ICE, that nobody respects in this country. Now, Senate Majority Whip John Barrasso countered that ICE and Border Patrol agents weren't the problem, that, quote, Democrats are. Today's Democrats are a rogue and radical party. You deserve better than reckless Democrat hostage-taking. You deserve the tools and support from Congress necessary to carry out the mission Congress has given you. Our country depends on you. So again, Chuck Schumer tells you that nobody respects Border Patrol or ICE. The Senate GOP's plan would fund both agencies for the remainder of Trump's term. Republicans want to front-load the agency with over $70 billion out of concern that Democrats would never agree to allocate taxpayer dollars to them again. Again, proving that they just want open borders. I mean, just come out and say it. Lawmakers dashed through amendment vote after amendment vote, with Democrats teeing up several add-ons to the budget blueprint designed to attack Republicans. Several of the Democrat amendments targeted affordability and economic issues in this country, and all failed along party lines. But the night wasn't without a dash of drama. Again, Lisa Murkowski and Rand Paul always. But anyway, Senator John Kennedy, who has pushed to broaden the scope of the forthcoming reconciliation package, despite GOP leadership and the White House wanting to keep it narrowly tailored to immigration enforcement, threatened to derail the process. This is interesting coming from Kennedy. He wanted to include a swath of amendments that ultimately wouldn't have been considered germane to the resolution and were destined to fail without support from government, or from Democrats in the government. One of those add-ons was a version of the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, or SAVE. So you got to give Kennedy credit, trying to get SAVE in there. Kennedy said, if you don't want to vote for it, don't. All I ask is you think about it, to trust our Rules Committee, to follow your heart, but take your brain with you, because the American people, both Democrats and Republicans and independents, are questioning our elections. His amendment ultimately failed. Meanwhile, adoption of the budget resolution doesn't immediately kick off reconciliation. The House will now have to adopt the same blueprint or modify it. The latter would kick the resolution back to the Senate and trigger another marathon vote session. While Republicans are moving forward with the process in response to Democrats not budging on ICE and CBP funding, some are grappling with the ramifications it could have for funding the agencies and, more broadly, the rest of the federal government going forward. Senator Katie Britt from Alabama says that she was disappointed that we were where we are, but I understand the need to fund these portions of this agency. I'm really disheartened because I think it fundamentally changes the way we move forward with appropriations and not for the better, and I'm not for that at all. So that's from Alex Miller at Fox News. So it was a late night for the Senate. We can talk about that. That is breaking news. It first reported right around 4 a.m., I believe. So I'll put a note here. Maybe we'll mention it in the 6 o'clock hour as well if we have opportunity, because we have a lot of New York State updates as well. Keeping with the breaking news, the Virginia court has declared the state's redistricting vote was unconstitutional. This is a legal win, but far from over, but a legal win from the Republicans. They're cheering a circuit court victory in Virginia that showed Democrats' redistricting efforts in Virginia are not quite over yet, despite a referendum to accept a new map drawn by Democrats getting approved by voters on Tuesday. Virginia Circuit Court Judge Jack Hurley ruled yesterday, one day after the redistricting passed, that all votes for or against the proposed redistricting amendment were unconstitutional, citing rules that imposed certain requirements that the referendum did not meet. There are a handful of cases making their way through the Virginia court system challenging various aspects of the referendum. Quote, the Tazewell Circuit Court just ruled the referendum unconstitutional. The judge entered an injunction blocking certification of the election and denied a motion to stay pending appeal. A final order will be entered once drafted and will be immediately appealed, former Republican Virginia Attorney General Ken Cuccinelli said. Shortly after the ruling came out, Virginia Attorney General Jay Jones, a Democrat who beat GOP incumbent Jason Miyares in November, indicated his office will immediately file an appeal. But a small victory because there is a long way to go. Cuccinelli told Scott Jennings, the lone conservative at CNN, Virginia has a process to amend its constitution that has the General Assembly pass a proposed amendment that have a state election, an intervening election where the new House of Delegates was elected and so forth. And then that new General Assembly comes back and has to pass the same exact resolution. The General Assembly passed the amendment for the first time, called First Passage, very creative, on Halloween. While these same Democrats 5 years ago gave us a 45-day election. So voting began September 19th of 2025. Over 1 million people had already voted before first passage, and they want to treat the election as the intervening election. They're going to have a very difficult time with that. I know it's all a little wonky here. So we'll be seeing a lot of fighting over that redistricting. They're calling that redistricting what arguably the first victory for Hakeem Jeffries, even AOC praising him. Now, Hakeem Jeffries has come under quite a bit of fire from his own party. That's the nature of the Democrat Party today, because he hasn't done, quote, enough to fight Trump and the Republicans. So he's calling this his major victory. Others are saying it's his first major victory. He said some pretty choice words to Florida if they decide to redistrict, because Republicans are pushing Ron DeSantis that, okay, Virginia did this, let's us redistrict. Because remember, Virginia went from what was it? Something like 6-5 Democrats. So 6 Democrat congressional representatives, 5 Republicans, with the redistricting 10-1 in favor of the Democrats. Okay, we have a lot of other breaking news. I realize I'm running late already. Stay with us. I see some comments. Oh, I see some waves coming in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Hi, this is Tom Witzel, owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is the start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
At Simmons Rockwell, you'll find brand new 2026 Chrysler Pacifica Select all-wheel drives for only $44,999 during the Declaration of Deals event going on now at Simmons Rockwell Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Bath.
Today's students are tomorrow's great thinkers and innovators.
What can this fall teach us about the way things move?
But right now, millions of kids go to schools that don't have the supplies they need just because of where they live. Donors Choose is a nonprofit that lets you support students and teachers in your community and beyond. You could supply a classroom like this one with a project. But what you're really giving is the moment that sparks a brighter tomorrow. Learn more at donorschoose.org.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers. We can enjoy a comfortable day out there. Temperatures a bit on the warm side with 68, some sunshine and a west-northwest wind. A bit on the mild side overnight, partly cloudy skies, low near 40, then low 60s on Friday. Friday night through Saturday, and Saturday night is the next widespread chance for some showers. Then drying out on our Sunday and Monday. Additional rain expected come Tuesday and Wednesday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Comment from a viewer. Chuck Schumer is delusional. I'm somebody, and I have nothing but respect for ICE and the Border Patrol. It's a tough job keeping American citizens safe from radical criminals, and I applaud the bravery of these men and women. But I have absolutely no respect for Chuck Schumer and his like-minded comrades. And if you're just joining us, that's Chuck Schumer, our senator here in New York State, who could very likely be primary challenged by AOC and lose, by the way. Schumer, that is. He said that nobody respects ICE or Border Patrol. Breaking yesterday, a little bit late, Secretary of the Navy John Fallon, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, Fallon, was fired Wednesday after months of feuding with his Pentagon bosses, particularly over his handling of President Trump's Golden Fleet shipbuilding initiative. Tensions between Fallon, War Secretary Pete Hegseth, and Deputy War Secretary Stephen Feinberg have been simmering for months, according to the New York Times, but also because normally the New York Times would be questionable at best, but also a Republican source. Fallon didn't get along with Pentagon brass, and his management and leadership style was incongruent with Hegseth and Feinberg, according to one GOP source familiar with the scenario. Quote, the administration really wanted to accelerate the shipbuilding program because of the president's agenda, and the secretary seemed incapable of accomplishing those goals, and he wasn't well liked. This, according to the anonymous source. When you combine incompetence with arrogance, it usually doesn't end well. That's a powerful line. I think we've all known someone like that, combining incompetence with arrogance. Feinberg had been gradually diverting responsibility for the major project away from Fallon. The secretary had also butted heads with Hung Chow, the undersecretary, who is now set to replace him. Fallon is leaving, effective immediately, and Chow will become acting Secretary of the Navy. No reason was officially given for his departure. Sean Parnell, the Pentagon spokesman, said Secretary of the Navy John C. Fallon is departing the administration effective immediately. We wish him well in his future endeavors. Ooh, that is not a glowing statement that people who have been let off before may have heard similar language. According to a senior administration official, they said President Trump and Secretary Hegseth agreed new leadership at the Navy is needed. Secretary Hegseth informed John Fallon of this news prior to it being made public. All right, there you are. Now, this is interesting. I don't know a lot about this Fallon, but one of the things that he said at an address to the Navy's annual conference, one of the things we're going to do in our contracting is if you beat schedule, you're going to get a bonus, but you're going to share it with the workers, he said at the time. Fallon is one of the country's top art collectors and ran a massive private investment firm. A top GOP donor, he's given more than $1.8 million to help elect Republicans. Now, take this for whatever it's worth. I don't think being just listed proves any kind of guilt, but his name also appeared on the flight manifest, I should say, for Jeffrey Epstein's private plane. He only appeared on one flight that traveled from London to New York and denied any knowledge of Epstein's crimes. Anyway, we don't need to know more about him. All we need to know is that the Navy Secretary has been fired after his feud over Trump's Golden Fleet. Okay, coming from Iran. Iran released videos late last night, early this morning, purported to show commandos seizing ships in the Strait of Hormuz. The propaganda clip was pumped out by state media after the regime boasted it had seized the Panama-flagged MSC Francesca and Liberia-flagged Epaminondas vessels just hours after the ceasefire was extended. In the video, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps soldiers are seen speeding toward a container ship that had the MSC emblazoned on the side before scaling a ladder and boarding the vessel. The commandos are wearing masks and carrying guns on their backs. Then soldiers were filmed approaching the Epaminondas before they entered a supposed engine room. Now, we also learned yesterday that the United States intercepted at least 3 Iranian oil tankers in Asian waters and is redirecting them away from their position near India, near India, Malaysia, and Sri Lanka. Washington has imposed a blockade on Iran's trade by sea, while Iran has fired on ships to prevent them sailing through the Strait of Hormuz waterway. We know all about the strait being closed. Also yesterday, and then we're going to kind of dive into Iran on a couple issues, but we have a lot of New York State topics we need to get to. I do want to talk a little bit about this idea that Hakeem Jeffries has his first big win in Virginia redistricting. How long has he been there? One article even said finally showing he can fill Nancy Pelosi's shoes. Anyway, President Trump announced yesterday that Iran will no longer execute 8 women after he pleaded Tuesday for their freedom, calling it very good news, saying, quote, I have just been informed that the 8 women protesters who are going to be executed tonight in Iran will no longer be killed. 4 will be released immediately, and 4 will be sentenced to 1 month in prison. I very much appreciate that Iran and its leaders respected my request as President of the United States and terminated the planned execution. The announcement came hours after Trump extended a 2-week ceasefire with Iran as U.S. negotiators await Tehran's reply to the latest American offer to end the nearly 2-month conflict. Iran's judiciary denied that the 8 women were ever set for execution, claiming that Trump was misled once again by fake news and that some of them have been released while others face charges that, if convictions are upheld, would at most result in imprisonment. Now, Iran's claim is contested, as is typically the case. One of the women, Bida Hamati, was sentenced to death for allegedly being part of a group that threw objects into Iranian forces during protests. Her case was reported last week by the U.S.-based human rights activist news agency. All right, so there we are. A couple quick updates. Now, Carolyn Levitt, I'm going to pose this question before we go to break if you want to weigh in on it. Carolyn Levitt said that Iran's seizure of ships is not a violation of a ceasefire because they aren't American or Israeli ships. We're going to tell you a little bit more about what she said in depth, but there's some that are questioning how that isn't essentially the end to the ceasefire. So your thoughts on that? Keep those comments, keep those waves coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
You don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Tired of cold weather? Sunny days are closer than you think. Get ready now for fun later with a boat, camper, or RV loan from Servview Credit Union at just 5.99% APR for up to 10 years. Adventure is waiting. Apply today.
You deserve primary care that connects. Care that helps you move forward. Care that connects you to world-class specialists. Care that connects you to providers who are part of your community. And care that connects you to the life you love. Because great healthcare comes from providers who care about connection just like you. Find your primary care appointment at centralishealth.org/schedule.
The Deck of Deals is here, and it's exploding into April at Chilson Wilcox. Drive home a Ram 1500 and save over $6,400. Plus, get 2.9% for 72 months or 4.9% for 84. And this comes with the best powertrain warranty in the business. 10 years, 100,000 miles. Or save up to $8,400 on a 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee. But hurry, only 13 left. They all must go. As always, get the highest trade-in values. Period. These deals won't last. When they're gone, they're gone.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Some viewer comments. Good morning, Frank. Steve here. Well, hey, Steve. It's interesting how easy it's been for Iran to make Trump out to look like a liar. Everybody knows for the most part that they have been hanging people. But then to sit there and make it out as if they've never done anything like that, and then say that they never plan on hanging the women, makes Trump look like a liar. So he's actually falling right into their traps, giving ammunition to the media and the Democrats. Social media can also be a worse nightmare, it looks like. Well, to your point, excuse me, Steve, this is perfect for the media. The media loves pushing the propaganda that Iran sends out because, again, we talked about this. We talked about it on yesterday's program extensively. The media and people like Senator Chris Murphy almost seem giddy and excited when they can, what they believe, show something that America lost and that Iran won. I mean, Senator Chris Murphy actually responded awesome about some ships getting through our blockade. Celebrating. They're happy about this. So when they see that propaganda come out where the Iran leaders, not the supreme leader, we haven't seen him, but various leaders say, oh no, we were never going to execute them. No, there was nothing there. You and I know from following the news that, of course, they were going to be executed. But by stopping that, they can make Trump look, quote unquote, foolish, at least to our media, who will push that instantly. So you raise a good point there, Steve. It's very frustrating when you watch the media's coverage of it. And we have a couple examples of it because they know exactly what they're doing. Because at the end of the day, it's like that New York Times, quote unquote, journalist said, they don't want to see America win this because it could be politically beneficial to President Trump. That tells you all you need to know about what we're dealing with the media. Comment from a different viewer. It's about time we slap the heck out of Iran. It's clear that they are just playing us with their continued shenanigans. It's also obvious that they are taking any agreement as a joke. The thing that scares me, to your point too, is all these delays, and Iran's notorious for this throughout their history, these delays give them time to build certain things up. Their missiles back up, some capabilities back up. They will delay for as long as they possibly can. That's kind of their history because they're working behind the scenes as that happens. So I'm with you. Yeah, this person writing, I can imagine there's a guy with a machine gun at the media headquarters as we speak in Iran. Yeah, that's all state run. And that ties in with this comment. Good morning, Frank. Good morning. Sounds like Iran media is still intact. Trump should take a play right out of the Democrat book and control the media. Well, in some ways he does. I mean, the kind of cliche term, but he's definitely living rent-free in the media's head. So Martha McCollum asked Carolyn Levitt, I want to ask you about these ships that Iran seized. And I don't want to go through the specifics, but we don't know what's going to happen to these crews. We're not sure where all of this is going. Does the president view that as a violation of the ceasefire? Carolyn Levitt said no, because these were not U.S. ships. These were not Israeli ships. These were two international vessels. And for the American media, who are sort of blowing this out of proportion to discredit the president's facts that he has completely obliterated Iran's conventional navy, these two ships were taken by speedy gunboats. Iran has gone from having the most lethal navy in the Middle East to now acting like a bunch of pirates. They don't have control over the strait. This is a piracy that we are seeing on display. And the naval blockade that the U.S. has imposed continues to be incredibly effective. And to be clear, the blockade is on ships going to and from the Iranian ports. And the point of this is the economic leverage that we maintain over Iran now. While there's a ceasefire with respect to the military and kinetic strikes, Operation Economic Fury continues. And the crux of that is the naval blockade. Now, Laura Ingraham, full disclosure, interviewed her a few times back in the day. She was on her program late yesterday and said, maybe I'm thick here, but didn't they attack 3 ships, meaning Iran? And wondering how that wouldn't constitute a violation of the ceasefire. She was speaking with Coordinator for Counterterrorism during the first Trump administration, Ambassador Nathan Sales. She said, quote, now, Mr. Ambassador, the White House claimed today that Iran did not violate the ceasefire. Maybe I'm thick here, but didn't they attack 3 ships? How is that not violating the ceasefire? Ambassador Sales said Iran has been violating the ceasefire from the moment the ink was dry on the agreement. The trade was that the United States stops its punishing and crippling military offensive against the Iranian regime, and in return, the regime opens up the strait, and it never did. It said, well, we'll open the strait, but only if you pay us a toll, or only if you use certain waters that are close to Iranian territory, and only if you coordinate with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. So they've been clear. Let's be clear. They've been breaking the ceasefire since day one. And looking at the coverage, MS Now interviewed Senator Mark Kelly, and he said, Mark Kelly, they're talking about him. That's, according to sources, that's who Obama wanted to run instead of Kamala Harris, was Senator Mark Kelly. So there's talks about him running potentially in 2028. He said, we've expanded an extraordinary number of munitions. And then he goes through all that. So this is bad timing. I'm pretty sure I know why this happened. We have a Secretary of Defense who was ill-equipped for the job and most unqualified Secretary of Defense ever. Now notice he says Secretary of Defense, not Secretary of War. It's chaos. It's not surprising. You know, firing Randy George, who was the Chief of Staff of the Army, he's one of the most professional, qualified members of the armed forces in a time that we're at war, when this administration has even suggested that we would put troops on the ground in Iran. Not the time to get rid of the Chief of the Staff of the Army, the leading uniformed member of our biggest fighting force. It makes absolutely no sense. Hey, these guys are flailing, from the top down. The president, the Secretary of Defense, they do not know what to do. And that's what happens when you have a president that gets us in conflicts without any kind of strategic goal, without a plan, without a timeline, with no exit strategy. That is the narrative they're trying to push. Hakeem Jeffries has done it as well. Representative, and again, this goes to this point where they're almost giddy in saying these things. Representative Moulton, Seth Moulton, Democrat from Massachusetts, actually said this. They, meaning Iran, are in a better position today than they were before this war started. I mean, remember what was happening right before Trump started his war of choice. We were negotiating with the Iranians to curtail their nuclear weapons program. We were asking them to cut back on their nuclear weapons development. So again, he believes that this Iran, who has lied constantly during this whole war, that they were being truthful, that they were not pursuing a nuclear bomb. So that Iran, in his mind, and the media will run with this all day long, that came from, I believe, CNN. CNN. That Iran is better off today than it was before the start of this war. Texas U.S. Senate candidate, State Representative James Tallarico, said President Trump's military operation in Iran, quote, has been a foreign policy blunder of epic proportion. Do you see the celebration in their eyes? And I don't accept their premise. I want to make that very clear. I don't accept their premise at all. When they're celebrating a defeat, I don't often believe it's a defeat at all. It's, again, pushing Iranian propaganda or focusing on maybe a negative. Of course, not everything's going to go perfect. Focusing on a negative and not, as Trump said the other day, not talking about the amazing job our military is doing. So I don't need to quote him, but he called it a foreign policy blunder of epic proportion. Now, on the other side of the well, first, New York Times said to Iran, Trump blinked first by extending the ceasefire. Iran's leaders believe that they can withstand an enduring standoff longer than President Trump. The strategy could be economically devastating for average Iranians. They don't care about the average Iranians. They're killing the average Iranians in droves. So from Iran's perspective, according to Erica Solomon, Trump blinked first. I don't want to go through all this. It's just dripping with hate for Trump and for pushing the narrative that we're losing. So Sean Hannity, do I have time? Well, we're going to give you the other side of the coin on Iran when we return. Then we've got a bunch of other things that are just going to be tough to segue through, which I hope you don't mind, but things we have to hit on because we've got a busy show in store, and I want to make sure that we have plenty of time for New York State updates because there are plenty of them. We also, because yesterday I even ran out of time. I know I played that clip from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, but I had another clip, it's just a very quick one, about the EV bus mandate. So we'll play that. And again, in the 7 o'clock hour, we're going to learn all about Arts in Bloom. I know you're going to enjoy that. It's a free studio and gallery tour. You can hear all about it if you don't have plans for the weekend. It's coming right up. And then tomorrow on the program, we're going to hear from Bampa's, I keep saying it wrong, Bampa's house. And you know when you get something stuck in your head and you can't think of the right way to say it? Bampa's house and Apple Ridge about their upcoming fashion show. That is on tomorrow's broadcast. Next week is booking up as well, so you don't want to miss a single day. I will not be in on Monday. I shouldn't mention that. It's not going to be a technical issue, but I will not be in on Monday. I'll be on assignment. But then after Monday, we are jam-packed to the gills with guests. So, one of which being Wednesday, Sheriff Jim Allard, fan favorite Sheriff Allard. So you'll want to make sure you get your questions in for that and tune in for that. But let's take a short break. So enough housekeeping. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News. Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Lease a brand new 2026 Hyundai Elantra SE sedan featuring alloy wheels, Android Auto, and Apple CarPlay with no money down for only $239 a month for 36 months. Make car buying simple. Drive your deal at Simmons Rockwell Hyundai in Big Flats.
Attention high school students. The Elmira Elks College Fair will be happening April 29th from 6 to 8 p.m. at Thomas A. Edison High School in Elmira Heights. It's open and free to the public. There will be up to 50 college representatives from technical schools, universities, in-state, out-of-state, 2-year, 4-year, public and private schools. Also the United States Armed Forces. If you're looking to transfer, this will be the college fair for you. Also a chance to win an instant scholarship drawing at 8 p.m. Come down to the Elmira Elks College Fair on April 29th from 6 to 8 p.m.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers. We can enjoy a comfortable day out there. Temperatures a bit on the warm side with 68, some sunshine and a west-northwest wind. A bit on the mild side overnight, partly cloudy skies, low near 40. Then low 60s on Friday. Friday night through Saturday, and Saturday night is the next widespread chance for some showers. Then drying out on our Sunday and Monday. Additional rain expected come Tuesday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Sean Hannity said that the situation in Iran is a nightmare scenario. So we've heard 4 Iran's government and its people. Now, we've heard from the other side. Let's hear what Hannity has to say. According to the White House, a beaten and battered, now near close to bankrupt Iran and government there will have no more than 3 to 5 days to present what would be a unified response to the president's peace proposal. Let me make this very simple. If anyone in the Islamic Revolutionary Guard or any other faction of Iran's remaining government is watching or you hear about this, your unified response, it better look like this. No nukes, no terrorism, no attacks on the Strait of Hormuz. And yeah, nuclear dust, you can't have it. This is not a crazy list, not that complicated, and it's not too much to ask. In return, you will get to live. In return, your own people have a shot at an economy that is not destroyed, not the radical Islamists who for 47 years have been terrorizing their very own people. In 3 to 5 days, Iran will cease hostilities, agree to the president's terms, come to a negotiated settlement, or they will face total destruction. Now, if they are foolish, for those of you in Iran tonight, you might hear about this. If you're foolish enough to think the president working at the request of Pakistan's prime minister to exhaust every possible path to peace and a negotiated settlement is just another opportunity to stall, well, you're clearly the dumbest people on the planet, especially after Midnight Hammer and Epic Fury. Now, Karg Island is already largely defenseless, responsible for 90% of Iran's oil exports. And in just, well, frankly, less than an hour, the U.S. military could level the entire island, obliterate Iran's oil industry, and with it, their entire economy. It's in about the same amount of time, the U.S. military can level critical infrastructure all across the country, force what's left of the regime to have to rebuild everything without almost no revenue. Remember, they're losing $400 to $500 million a day right now. He went on to say that it's a nightmare scenario for both the people and the government of Iran. But President Trump is prepared to act if the regime will not commit to opening the Strait of Hormuz, giving up their nuclear material. Though time will tell, we will wait. We will all hope for peace, although all hope for a negotiated settlement. Frankly, you have to expect the worst. They have made one dumb decision after another, but as President Trump has stated, America's military, they are locked, they are loaded, they are ready to go. Senator John Fetterman, who we learned yesterday that Democrat representatives from Pennsylvania in Congress would not vow to support him. They didn't not support him, but there was no clear yes, he should run for re-election. Fetterman blasted his own party, accusing Democrats and the American media of undermining U.S. efforts to topple the Iranian regime, saying Iran must be so excited by the American media and the Democratic Party. It's like as long as we can hang on, more and more people continue to vote against the Trump administration. I'm the only Democrat effectively left in Congress to support Epic Fury. It's almost as if we've forgotten on the Democrat side that the real enemy, the real threat, the real danger is Iran and its proxies. Yeah, and he's exactly right. If you look at the media, and again, I keep saying it, it's as if they're rooting for a loss. Why can we be this close and allow them to acquire a nuclear bomb, he asked. That's my real concern, and I don't even want to be on the wrong side of history to say I'm going to walk away from it. I've supported the operation the entire time, and I don't know where the votes are going to be. If it takes 2 or 3 on the Republican side, I don't know, but I'm going to say where my vote is because I firmly stand on the side of Israel, and I'm firmly on the side of opposing Iran. People on the left aren't talking about that, mentioning the potential of 8 women about to be executed before Trump stepped in. People on the left aren't talking about that. Why aren't they protesting that Iran's about to hang women in Iran? They are the evil regime. We are a very important inflection point in the Middle East. That's why I'm going to continue to support this, because Iran can't ever acquire a nuclear bomb. That's not a radical idea for the Democrat Party. Until you're willing to even do anything about it, then those are empty words. We should be firmly on the side to hold Iran fully accountable. And to his point, I've been saying it from the beginning, the people that were protesting anti-Israel, anti-Semitic signs and chants and screaming, where are those people now standing for, protesting for the people of Iran that have been brutally murdered by the regime? Why? Their silence speaks volumes. To kind of paraphrase and steal some of their terms, silence is violence, right? Their silence speaks volumes on this issue, to Fetterman's point. Okay. Majid Glee says the Middle East agrees with President Trump more than Americans realize. Americans are debating whether this war was worth it. 13 soldiers have come home in caskets. Hundreds more carry wounds. No one takes that lightly, least of all someone like me whose choice this country, or who chose this country, and wears its flag by choice, not by birth. And he said, I was born on the Iranian border, and he goes through his whole history. But he said, I grew up in this. I did not study it in a seminar. I know what a missile sounds like when it hits a neighborhood school. I know what families look like when they pack a car at 3 a.m. and drive toward the one city that is still standing. The fear across the region is not that America acted. It's that the world will lose interest before anything changes. The Middle East is not a burden. It's a region of extraordinary talent, ambition, and wealth, held back by a violent few who have never been weaker than they are right now. The people of this region have been asking the world to listen for decades. Perhaps it now will. All right, so there's our conversation on Iran. We can continue that conversation if you would like. Keep weighing in on that, but we have a couple of quick things to get to. A couple updates from stories we had throughout the week and last week. We also have a lot on New York State issues that I think you're going to find very interesting. I think they just voted yesterday for their 6th budget extension. I don't know the answer of why these extensions are so short. I mean, Governor Hochul said that the budget will be done by May 18th. Why not make it? I mean, is there a reason? Maybe I'm, to use Laura Ingram's language earlier, maybe I'm thick, but I don't understand that, okay, we're going to do a 3-day budget extender, and then they come back to Albany and another 3-day and a 2-day and a 1. It seems very confusing to me. Maybe there's some protocol in there that they have to only extend it for 3 or 4 days. But remember, the New York State budget was due April the 1st. Today is April the 23rd. So we can talk about that. And we did have someone pose a question to those just joining us, if you were in Chemung County, asking about the kind of redistricting in Chemung County, saying that their place to vote changed from Elmira to Southport. Why the redistricting? So we'll ask others in the know, but if you are in the know, please feel free to weigh in. But we got to take a short break. Boy, hour number 1's moving fast, isn't it? We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Our residents, this is something they love. They put themselves out there doing the show, walking the runway, walking the risers. Every penny we take in on our tickets, on our raffles, sponsorship tables, all goes to Mount Visors. We sold out in 2 weeks.
You deserve primary care that connects. Care that helps you move forward. Care that connects you to world-class specialists. Care that connects you to providers who are part of your community. And care that connects you to the life you love. Because great healthcare comes from providers who care about connection just like you. Find your primary care appointment at centralishealth.org/schedule.
Every millions fly with us at Allegiant because together we go places. We see old friends and try new things. We laugh. We really like to laugh. And reconnect. We remember and we wander, which leads to wonder. From how we go to where we go to what we do when we get there, we go further together.
Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comments from viewers. I just cannot grasp the fake news snuggling up to Iran. Have they forgotten 9/11? Have they forgotten all about terrorists and where they are trained and come from? Fetterman ought to tell the Democrat Party where to go and run as a Republican. Thank you very much. Mark writes, and I think the reason they are not protesting for the people in Iran is the protesters are told and paid to do what the Democrats want, and they want Trump to fail. That you raise a good point. But it's so pathetic when you see that, especially the Hollywood celebrities. They have to have their little pins. They have to have their, ribbons. Where is the support for the Iranian people? Because if you're silent there, you've lost all credibility on your other arguments, in my opinion. So, your thoughts on that? Also, this is coming from the Daily Beast. And I was going to ask the question, are you going to spend your Saturday night watching C-SPAN for the White House Correspondents' Dinner? Well, according to the Daily Beast, and the Daily Beast is far left. It is far, far left. They claim that Trump's plans for the night were leaked. Donald Trump will launch a revenge attack on the White House media when he confronts them in person at the Washington dinner on Saturday night, then flee before there can be any revenge. Flee. So this is what I mean by the far left. He's expected to target publications that he is accused of writing negatively about his administration and his war with Iran, in particular, according to the sources. The Daily Beast is among the outlets the president and his aides have accused of Trump derangement syndrome. Trump will leave the White House Correspondents' event after making the speech, so he will miss the presentation of press awards, one of which would be certain to embarrass him. He has told aides he has no intention of still being in the International Ballroom at the Washington Hilton when the Wall Street Journal is honored with the Katharine Graham Award for its scoop about a bawdy letter Trump allegedly wrote to Jeffrey Epstein for his 50th birthday. Now, I don't understand. So that's the leak? That he's going to roast the media? I mean, does anybody remember when he did the, what is that called, Alfred Newman dinner right before the election with Hillary Clinton? He's not one to pull punches. And his jokes are funny, but sometimes they're not jokes. They are just pointed attacks. So this should come as no surprise. I don't know who they claim leaked this. But he was going to attack the media. But then he's going to leave. I mean, I don't know about you, but I kind of want my president to get in and out in a scenario like that. He's got a lot on his plate right now. If you are just joining us, we mentioned early in the morning there is a Virginia judge that blocked Tuesday's vote. That he is blocking the certification of the results of the redistricting referendum. It's pretty big news there. We do have couple other, well, since we talked about the media, let me just mention this really quickly. And then we've got some really strange stories to get to. But we talk about the White House Correspondents' Dinner. We talk about on this program nonstop about the media and their far left bias, and it's why they've lost their credibility. It's why people don't respect them. The polls show that over and over again. Marty Barron, he ran the Washington Post back between 2013 and 2021. He was giving an address at something called the Peter F. Collier Awards for Ethics in Journalism at New York University. And what Mr. Barron said is what we've been saying all along. He let it slip. Quote, each of us probably could point to other instances where we went astray. Here's one to think about. Did we live up to our truth-seeking mission early this decade as we saw Joe Biden struggling cognitively and physically while holding the most powerful position on earth? I don't believe we did. Did some among us shy away from aggressively exploring his intellectual acuity and physical health for fear of aiding Donald Trump's campaign and alienating loyal readers, viewers, and listeners? My guess is yes. If so, would that be an ethical breakdown in our profession? Again, I'd say yes. One thing is for sure, our credibility was damaged. Wow. Well, got to give him credit for finally saying it. I mean, after the damage is done, it's kind of like Jake Tapper's book. Once the damage is done, all these people patting themselves on the back of the media saying, well, I knew about it. This was bad. But now they want us to believe in their credibility. So 4 years of hiding Biden's problems, protecting him, defending him from anyone who questioned his mental acuity and physical health. Now they want us to believe article after article where Trump's unhinged, Trump 25th Amendment. And their argument, this is how despicable the media can be. Their argument is, well, you complained we didn't do enough to cover Biden, so now we're just putting Trump under a magnifying glass. That is how the left operates. But let's face it, for what Mr. Barron said, and I don't think I'll say this about much of what he's done in his career, he's spot on. Did some among us shy away from aggressively exploring Biden's intellectual acuity and physical health for fear of aiding Donald Trump's campaign and alienating loyal readers, viewers, and listeners? My guess is yes. If so, it's not a guess, you know it's a yes. If so, would that be an ethical breakdown in our profession? Again, I'd say yes. One thing is for sure, our credibility was damaged. Absolutely was damaged. It is still being damaged because of what they report and don't report. Remember, we've said it on this program a million times, but the real damage is done on what they don't report. The secrets, for instance, Eric Swalwell, who's out of the news already. Boy, that went quick, huh? That news cycle died down almost immediately. But look at Eric Swalwell, who it was the worst kept secret that he was the kind of person that he was. You even had those in the media saying, well, that wasn't my beat. That I wasn't I heard about the rumors, but I wasn't working in women's issues or Washington issues, so it wasn't my beat. I didn't track it down. And they actually thought that was a good defense, that it's not their job. And they went on to attack Republicans after Republicans attacked them. But that is what we're dealing with the media. It's what they don't report. It's what they focus laser-like. It's going back to what we were saying about Iran. If they think something is negative, they will run with it and it will be the biggest story. If something is positive for the United States, it gets buried. I mean, how often did you hear about, 40-plus Iranian leaders destroyed in that initial bombing? That was a one-and-done report. But boy, any kind of thing they can give that looks to them as a win for Iran, they're going to report on it, and that's all you're going to hear. All right, we got to take a break because I'm running real late. Then we're going to read your comments before we wrap up our number one. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think about calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone.
At Simmons Rockwell, you'll find brand new 2026 Chrysler Pacifica Select all-wheel drives for only $44,999 during the Declaration of Deals event going on now at Simmons Rockwell Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Bath.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers. We can enjoy a comfortable day out there. Temperatures a bit on the warm side with 68, some sunshine and a west-northwest wind. A bit on the mild side overnight, partly cloudy skies, low near 40, then low 60s on Friday. Friday night through Saturday and Saturday night is the next widespread chance for some showers. Then drying out on our Sunday and Monday. Additional rain expected come Tuesday and Wednesday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Viewer comments before we wrap up our number one. Regarding the redistricting, I had no idea or clue that Democrats were even considering it until it happened. Talk about transparency. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. Jack writes in, he's wondering if New York State is being controlled, by the Democrats. I don't understand why the budget is taking so long. Is it because the vultures are picking over the carcass, or is it upstate versus downstate? It's certainly not left versus right. No, it's left versus left. It's because they're putting policy in the budget. You have Governor Hochul, who wants to change, because it's not affordable, change some of the climate policy, and there's a few other things. The Democrats on the far left, who are going the Mamdani route, they don't want to be seen to their constituents as not being far enough left. So it's really 100% left versus left. There's only 3 people in a room. They're all Democrats debating these things. So it's not upstate, downstate. It's not even looking at that. I think that's a funny way of putting it, picking over the carcass. It is literally the left wants to be farther left, and Hochul, not moderate whatsoever, but wants certain changes to climate policy, some other things that the left just can't sign on to. So that's really what the fight is about. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Good morning. As good as it would be to have Fetterman as a Republican, it would probably be better for him to stay as he is to counter the Lisa Murkowski or the Rand Paul factor. That's a very good point. I don't want to see him come to the Republican side. I think he is doing a great job of if he were a Republican and talking to Democrats and agreeing with Democrats, he'd be called a maverick by the media. He'd be called a hero. But because he's a Democrat, willing to talk to Republicans, willing to hear them out. Remember, because he doesn't always vote with Republicans, but he's been strong in the support of Israel. He's been strong in his support of Operation Epic Fury, and the left hates him for that. So I think he's doing a great job where he's at. I would agree with you. Comment from a different viewer. Not only has the fake news quickly and quietly dropped Swallow, but don't forget AOC and Crockett. Yeah, there hasn't been a lot of talk about, a little bit about AOC, not much about Crockett. But Swallow's interesting because they love to have him on the news programs because he would just bash Trump. But now they once loved him. Now they have to bury it because they know how much damage it does to Democrats. And that's why you got the initial reporting and now you hear nothing, right? And the Attorney General of New York, they added. Yeah, that's a good point, isn't it? All right, we've got some other comments coming in, but we are out of time for hour number 1. Stay with us for hour number 2, coming up after this.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News. Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
I had to pack up all my things. I had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say. But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org.
The Decro Deals is here, and it's exploding into April at Chilson Wilcox. Drive home a Ram 1500 and save over $6,400. Plus, get 2.9% for 72 months or 4.9% for 84. And this comes with the best powertrain warranty in the business. 10 years, 100,000 miles. Or save up to $8,400 on a 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee. But hurry, only 13 left. They all must go. As always, get the highest trade-in values. Period. These deals won't last.
And we welcome you to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. All right, Ken writes in the past, America has taught the Iranians how to negotiate. We have devised plans that would rein in their nuclear program if they adhered to it. But those plans had no teeth. We made it easy for Iran to hide what they were doing. The only thing that past plans accomplished was to give the Democrats an opportunity to say, look what I did, so the sheeple could feel good about electing Democrats to tell them what to do. Now, even though their country is in a shambles, Iran is still holding on to the idea that America will agree to something that is not in our best interest. They don't realize that Trump is a different kind of president. He isn't driven by the usual political agenda of past presidents. His major fault, narcissism, is America's greatest asset in world affairs. When he says he is going to accomplish something, he will go to the end of the earth to accomplish it. Even the Democrats and sheeple will clandestinely be happy that this threat to America has been eliminated. That's a great message, Ken. Spot on. I do appreciate that this morning. All right. Again, if you are just joining us in the 7 o'clock hour, a judge has blocked the Virginia recertification results. Let me try that again. Redistricting results has blocked the certification of results of redistricting referendum. That's a weird headline. There's a long way to go here, but that is a small or beginning victory for Republicans in that legal battle. Okay. Where do we want to, well, I mentioned this quickly, and I don't really want to spend too much time on it, but they believe that Virginia is Hakeem Jeffries' signature win. Allies say the House Democrat leadership redistricting counteroffensive showed he's worthy of stepping into Nancy Pelosi's shoes. Wow. Even earning praise from Pelosi herself. I'm very proud, the former speaker said in an interview, adding Jeffries has handled redistricting fabulously. He also said, I hate this term and I can't use it, but Jeffries warns Florida GOP that a new map will backfire, that if Florida decides to redistrict and they're pushing Ron DeSantis to redistrict, that it would backfire on Republicans, saying our message to Florida Republicans is blank around and find out. I hate that statement. It's overused at this point. Came out not that long ago in the political world, and it is being used constantly. It makes people feel like they're tough. He vows maximum, Hakeem Jeffries, again, vows maximum warfare. Interesting choice of language. Democrats defeated Donald Trump's gerrymandering scheme in Virginia tonight. We will crush the DeSantis dummy-mander in Florida next. That's the best he can come up with, dummy-mander? My goodness, that's pathetic. I guess this is a big win for Jeffries. Okay, Hakeem Jeffries says Democrats defeated Trump's gerrymandering scheme in Virginia. What was his scheme? You literally gerrymandered. It's like when they say they had to gerrymander in defense of democracy. They disenfranchised voters in the fight for democracy. Wow. For the people, you would hope all the people would see this, but just at a side note, if the best you can come up with is dummy mandering, maybe you're not ready for that level, Jeffries. He uses all the same talking points. When someone told him that and he thought it was funny, and he's going to keep running with it, I'm sure. Tuesday night's win marks a major feather in Jeffries' cap that will help burnish his reputation in the Democratic caucus as an operator and foil to Trump. It's also a signature win for a rising leader who is often compared to his iconic predecessor. This is coming from the Politico. All right, anyway. So he mentions the warfare, and AOC offered rare praise for him. There's no real love lost between those two. AOC shared rare praise for Hakeem Jeffries after he vowed maximum warfare everywhere all the time. We'll say, heck yes, this is the energy, she tweeted out. Wow, that's newsworthy, huh? But Republicans are pressuring DeSantis to redistrict in Florida after the Virginia Democrats win. Virginia Democrats flipped potentially 4 seats in their favor. I think it was 5. Well, so originally it was Democrats 6 congressional seats, Republicans 5. Now it is 10 Democrats to 1. But remember, they're redistricting and gerrymandering. They're gerrymandering in defense of democracy. They're disenfranchising voters in defense of democracy. They're keeping Trump off the ballot in the defense of democracy. They're installing Kamala Harris with no votes from their own party in defense of democracy. Anyway, but after the Virginia win, Whoopi Goldberg on The View said, okay, everybody stop it with the redistricting. There are good people out there and want to do this, but people don't want to start running and then get removed because you've changed the map. Leave the map alone. Leave the map alone. Let people decide who they want and what they want. You don't own the government. We own the government. Everybody stop with the redistricting. Let people win on their own merit because cheating doesn't work. Cheating just makes it worse. It's your party that's doing it. Where's it going to end? Because Texas did this, then California said, no, we're going to do this. By the way, it should be noted, California on paper did it first. I know they always point to Texas. California, Gavin Newsom signed it in before Texas did. Well, ask our people what they want, as did the folks in California. California people said, yeah, we don't like what's happening, so you can't say, clutch your pearls and go, oh my goodness, I can't believe you did this. Sonny Hoyston said the Republican Party did start this in Texas and didn't do it by the will of the people. They didn't have an election. They didn't put it on a ballot. They did it in the legislature, and Texas stole while redistricted and took 5 seats. So California, which has the GDP of a small country, basically said, I'll see your 5, and I'm going to get you 5. So the Democrats got 5. I thought it should have ended there. She continued, but if you look at then, North Carolina got involved, and Republicans started little by little chipping away, taking away the will of the people. And now we've got Virginia saying we're going to take it to the people, not the legislature. I've got to tell you, when they go low, I think you go to the Earth's crust. What? So, again, the will of the people is to gerrymander. Okay, one thing. We got so much to talk about, and I gotta. All right, we'll probably talk about New York State updates after we speak with our guest. But I had to mention this. If you haven't seen the video, far left Representative Ilhan Omar. This is one to go back to our point of who isn't covered. Boy, they've kept quiet on her, haven't they? With all that fraud happening in Minnesota. And then we found out that she was worth, what was it, $30 million in 1 year. She blew up at a reporter this week for asking questions about accounting, they call it discrepancies, that she blamed for overstating her net worth by millions of dollars on financial disclosure forms. The Babylon Bee had a joke. Basically, remember the Leering Center, the Children's Leering Center, where all that money went in. It was supposed to be a learning center. Maybe she went to a similar organization to get her taxes done. But in May of last year, Omar claimed that she and her husband, Tim Manette, held assets worth between $6 million and $30 million. However, an amended filing reported by the Wall Street Journal last week put the couple's wealth at between $18,000 and $95,000. That's quite a discrepancy. How do you report that if in your bank account right now you have $6 million to $30 million, or if you have $18,000 to $95,000? And again, is there investigation? Is there a probe into this? I know there's been a lot of chatter about it, but has there been anything done? She claimed that the original filing was riddled with accounting errors. I would say, if you go from $18,004 to $30 million, that's one heck of an accounting error. So a Lindell TV reporter asked her, Congresswoman Omar, the last time I spoke to you, you said I was stupid for asking about your financial disclosure, but there's some discrepancies on there. Would you like to explain that? How did you make such a big mistake? Visibly annoyed and offering a sarcastic smile, she said, I think you're stupid for asking me anything. I don't want to tell you, we'll say, baloney. How about that? Have a good day. That's your transparent representative for those living in Minnesota. In September, the Washington Free Beacon revealed Omar's net worth has skyrocketed by as much as 3,500% in 2024, based on the disclosure that she has since disavowed. Yeah. So after that came out, and it's like, how did you get that much money that quickly? She filed an amended disclosure in response to questions from the Office of Congressional Conduct, showing the businesses as having no value once liabilities are factored in. So she had a winery, $1 million, $5 million, some capital, Rose Lake Capital touted assets worth $5 million to $25. Well, when you look at the losses, now that's always good for a place called Rose Lake Capital. I'm sure you want to invest there. When you take into account losses, they're only worth $18,000. House GOP whip Tom Emmer said Elon cannot escape accountability much longer. Investigations are ongoing in House committees. If Ilhan Omar is discovered to have been involved in any or have benefited in any way from any fraud, she must be held accountable. By the way, that includes marriage fraud. Because we know about her past. But hey, we got a couple other things we're going to go through quickly. We've got to take a break. After this next segment, we have a segment coming up. Then we'll hear from our friends at Arts and Bloom. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Attention students. The Elmira Elks College Fair will be happening April 29th from 6 to 8 p.m. at Thomas A. Edison High School in Elmira Heights. It's open and free to the public. There will be up to 50 college representatives from technical schools, universities, in-state, out-of-state, 2-year, 4-year, public and private schools. Also the United States Armed Forces. If you're looking to transfer, this will be the college fair for you. Also a chance to win an instant scholarship drawing at 8 p.m. Come down to the Elmira Elks College Fair on April 29th from 6 to 8 p.m.
Dear Coach. Dear Coach, they don't teach you that inner strength is the most important kind of strong, but you taught me that.
They don't teach you how to build confidence in yourself or how to deal with all the pressures all at once, but you taught me that.
First tee was more than golf. It's where I discovered what I'm capable of.
You didn't just prepare me for 18 holes. You were preparing me for every day of my life.
Learn more at firsttee.org.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers. We can enjoy a comfortable day out there. Temperatures a bit on the warm side with 68, some sunshine and a west-northwest wind. A bit on the mild side overnight, partly cloudy skies, low near 40, then low 60s on Friday. Friday night through Saturday, and Saturday night is the next widespread chance for some showers. Then drying out on our Sunday and Monday. Additional rain expected come Tuesday and Wednesday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. A lot of people commenting on this idea that Elon Omar are only worth 18. That was at one point 30 million, but no, it was only 18,000. 18,000, her house is worth more than that. Not to mention that she probably owns more than one house and automobiles. What a joke. Talk about being twisted into a pretzel. Yeah, she's been caught. That's what it is. And she's hoping that by amending that it'll go away. And unfortunately, the media will let it go away. As you heard there, the journalist that was questioning her was from Lindell TV. It wasn't from NBC, ABC, CBS, right? Quickly, a couple of Democrats on the House Judiciary Committee are demanding that FBI Director Kash Patel fill out a screening test used to assess harmful patterns of alcohol consumption and routinely used by individuals to help help identify hazardous drinking behaviors. In a letter to Patel on Tuesday, ranking member Jamie Raskins, and this is all grandstanding, folks. This is 100% so they can get their name in the media and they'll get that fundraising off of this. Some of the screening questions attached to the letter, they want him to answer this if he has a drinking problem. How many drinks containing alcohol do you have on a typical day when you are drinking? How often during the last week have you failed to do what was normally expected from you because of drinking? How often during the last year have you been unable to remember what happened the night before because you have been drinking? The Democrats also asked that Patel fill out a sworn statement that his answers are true under penalty of perjury. Of course, they cited that Atlantic piece. I do think it's interesting that opinion that we had yesterday that said by him pushing the $250 million lawsuit against Atlantic, it made a kind of irrelevant article relevant. It gave the media an opportunity to attack him. But yes, wouldn't you like a lot of our representatives, some of those on the House Judiciary Committee, to fill out that same question and answer form, see how they do? But Cory Booker, who wants to run for 2028 for president so bad, it's to the level of pathetic. He's always been that kind of pathetic. Remember, he had to have his Spartacus moment. And then he had his speech, which wasn't a filibuster, but the longest speech on the floor. And now he has a book about that speech called Stand. And I guess he found kind of the perfect match for himself and his wife, who said, I was so scared when he gave that speech. I thought he could get hurt or die from, I guess, standing and giving a speech for very long. I don't know, but grandstanding again. But that's who he is, and apparently his wife is. He said that Trump hired a woefully underqualified cabinet in key positions. And we know this because many of them barely got through by 1 or 2 votes. Republican people I know very well who seem to have to contort themselves to be that final vote that gets that person off the line, or they had to threaten and control people to do it. Well, now the chickens are coming home to roost. We're seeing scandals, conflicts of interest, misdeeds, and showing up drunk at work or misusing the authority granted to you by the president. But by the people of the not by the president, but by the people of the United States. This is an exhibit of Donald Trump's inadequacies as a leader and the kind of cabinet that he chose, personal loyalty over qualifications to do the work of the American people. Kash Patel is the most recent, but there will be more. All right, that's Cory Booker, who says, while he says that, tells you that he is up for the job as president of the United States. Okay. Speaking of confirmations, the Post editorial board says if the Senate wants to fight inflation and put the U.S. economy on an even keel, it should confirm Kevin Warsh to head the Federal Reserve Board as soon as possible. Warsh's confirmation hearing Tuesday before the Senate Banking Committee should remove any doubt that he's the right man to head the Fed. A Stanford professor who served on the Fed board from 2006 to 2011. He's won the respect of almost everyone, including many Democrats. In 2006, Senator Chuck Schumer called him tremendously accomplished, adding, he knows unequivocally the Fed must be independent, non-ideological, and nonpartisan. Warsh made that clear Tuesday, echoing what he stressed in 2010, quote, independence in the conduct of monetary policy is at the core of advanced modern economies. That puts a lie to the portrayal of Warsh by Senator Elizabeth Warren that he's Trump's sock puppet. And she and other Democrats claim he'll lower interest rates to please the president, which could then reignite inflation. Funny, they had no worries at all about inflation back when Team Biden was setting it on fire. Plus, the president never asked me to commit to interest rate cuts, Warsh said, nor would I have ever done so. In any event, Warsh is about as hawkish as you can get on inflation. I don't want to go through his whole history. But Americans want confidence that the economy is in good hands. If a replacement isn't set to go by Powell's last day as a chairman, May 15th, and the economy falters, Republicans will pay a price. All right, let's see. A couple of comments. To the redistricting Virginia, low Republican turnout passed this. Just like low Republican turnout this fall will reelect Hochul. Great point. We can't, here's one of the problems. There's a couple different things. Apathy. People are so sick of hearing the news and they think, oh, it's all over but the shouting. Because let's face it, the day after Trump won election, they pretty much said that the midterms were all but over, that Democrats were going to win. So some Republicans get discouraged. There's also the Republicans that get to use the old term, fat and happy, that they, hey, our guys won. We got the House, we got the Senate, we got the White House. Yeah, they get frustrated that not more is being done, but hey, we got it. There's no worries. Woke culture's dead. All these things are dead. Then you start to see that's not the case. But will they, just being happy with their president in there, not turn up the vote? So you raise a good point. That did pass in Virginia because of low Republican turnout. Just like if there's a low Republican turnout, Bruce Blakeman will lose and Governor Hochul will win. Comment from a different viewer. What a bunch of malarkey. Thank you very much. Good to hear that again. Do appreciate that. And finally, before we head to a break, and we hear from, after that, the Arts in Bloom, regarding Patel and alleged drinking, don't you think that the Democrats are essentially portraying the pot calling the kettle black? That's what I'm saying. If they want to have that that question and answer form filled out by Patel, it would be nice if they all filled it out as well, just to get an idea how many drinks they consume in a day of drinking. We have... Oh, as I mentioned, I meant to mention this at the top of the hour. If you had not heard, Senate passed late last night a budget plan for ICE and Border Patrol in a bid to reopen Homeland Security. Our Senator Chuck Schumer said that they shouldn't give this money. I'm paraphrasing this part. Shouldn't give this kind of money to ICE and Border Patrol because, and I quote, nobody respects ICE and Border Patrol, according to our Senator Chuck Schumer. So again, they passed it through the Senate. There's still a long way to go on this, just like with that judge stopping the redistricting, gerrymandered redistricting in that vote in Virginia. We don't have to go through all this, but you get the idea. The Senate passes a budget plan for ICE and Border Patrol in a bid to reopen Homeland Security. All right, when we come back, we're going to hear from Arts in Bloom, that upcoming free studio and gallery tour throughout Elmira and Corning. And then we've got a lot of New York State updates when we return after that. So stay with us. Keep those comments coming in. And we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
The Declaration of Deals is here, and it's exploding into April at Chilson Wilcox. Drive home a Ram 1500 and save over $6,400. Plus, get 2.9% for 72 months or 4.9% for 84. And this comes with the best powertrain warranty in the business. 10 years, 100,000 miles. Or save up to $8,400 on a 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee. But hurry, only 13 left. They all must go. As always, get the highest trade-in values. Period. These deals won't last. When they're gone, they're gone.
Can you help me?
We're going out. Thank you.
Oh, look, they're playing chess.
What you got there?
Will you help my mom?
She's real sick, huh? Hey, crew, I'll give the first move to anyone who signs up to be an organ donor. How do you do it?
Easy. Just go to organdonor.gov.
You heard him, organdonor.gov.
More donors means more hope. Sign up at organdonor.gov.
Did you know we waste as much as 40% of all the food we produce globally? Did you also know that each year, millions of acres of wildlife habitat are plowed over, and billions of gallons of water is guzzled up to produce that food? And your wallet is taking a hit too. Americans toss out more than $382 billion worth of food per year. That's a lot of waste. But did you know that there are simple things you can do to help? And spread the word that food should never be trash. Visit us at wwf.earth/food.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio. And in that studio, it's time to talk Arts in Bloom. Thanks so much for being on the program.
Thank you very much for having us.
All right, so this has been going on. We were talking out there for quite a few years now. But tell us, for those that aren't aware, what is Arts in Bloom?
So,
Arts in Bloom is a self-guided studio tour. There's 9 different venues this year. So you're going to see artists' studios, their homes, their land, I guess, too. Beulah Land is a new part of it this year that we're featuring. West End Gallery and the Glass Menagerie are participating. And
Right. So 2 galleries, and the rest are artist studios, so you really get to see where we do our work and how we do our work.
Oh, wow. And when we talk about the arts, what kind of arts will you see? You know, like arts is kind of a wide definition, right? What are we talking about?
A little bit of everything.
Okay.
So, for example, I'm a painter, so most of what you'll see in my studio is paintings or prints of paintings. Colleen?
I'm a painter of pots, so you're going to see ceramics
sure.
in my studio.
Right. We also have photographers represented, sculptors, painters. So covering the galleries, there's quite a wide range of arts that you will see.
So when you invite somebody in your studio, is that something that's like intimidating almost? Is like that your safe space in a way?
Yes.
Yeah.
So on a normal day-to-day basis, that's my safe space.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think when we were chatting before
Yeah.
the program, I have to do a little cleanup before I invite people into my home, and the same is true of my studio.
Yeah.
So yes, that's normally my working space. For
Yeah.
Arts in Bloom, it's also a welcoming space.
Yeah.
So very excited to get people in the door.
And now it's spring cleaning right now.
Absolutely.
Next time, okay. And I know that you're not in it for the whole time of Arts in Bloom, but how did this all start? How do you any idea how this all came about?
So I think it was a group of artists that decided, this is not something that's unique to this area. There are very similar art tours, for example, in Ithaca. There's an arts tour that happens once a year, and other cities the same. And this was pulled together. There was a couple that years ago, 2013 was the first Arts in Bloom, pulled together a group of artists and decided to create an art tour. It was active until the COVID pandemic, went dormant for a few years, and 3 years ago we brought it back. So,
why did you each individually decide to participate in it?
I'll let you go first.
Yeah.
Well, I'm an artist in Elmira, and before I got to tour on Arts in Bloom because it was just Steuben County, and then when it came back, we opened it up to Chemung County as well, and have locations in Elmira as well as Corning and Camp El Savona.
Yeah, and I got involved because, frankly, I was invited and asked if I would be interested in doing this. And for me, it's an opportunity to give people a sneak peek into my process.
Of course.
Where I do my work. People, when I'm talking to them, I mention that I have a studio. Where is it? On Market Street. Ooh.
Yeah.
It's a second floor studio, so people kind of walk by it all the time and don't notice it. So,
do you find that when people are talking to you during Arts in Bloom, what kind of questions do you get? Do you find them to be kind of fascinating? Or is it basic questions about what it is you do in art?
It runs the gamut of
both.
conversations you never know, and it's very exciting because when you open the door, you don't know who's going to be there.
Right, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So you'll have everything from artists who are coming to collectors who've purchased work from you in the past, to people who just walking down the street and see the Arts in Bloom signs up and decide to come check it out. So wide variety of questions that you get about your work, about your process, and about why you're an artist and what inspires you.
Does it seem like one of those scenarios where when people go and see it, and if they're an artist, they want to jump right on it because it's such a fun event? Is that why there's so many galleries and studios?
I think partly so.
Yeah. It just
not
seems
just
like
artists, but
right.
Anybody who's interested.
So tell us about specifically what to expect for the demos. If people are going to attend, tell us a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Okay, so at each individual artist studio, to the extent that time will permit, because we're talking to people as they come by, we'll be working on our work to get an idea of what we do. At West End Gallery, there are going to be 5 featured artists, 3 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, who will be painting and creating, and you can go on our website to find out more information. And then at the Glass Menagerie, there'll be a ceramicist who is working on some work for an upcoming solo show that she's doing, Kate Buzzle.
Well, how does somebody find out where to go? I mean, I know that sounds like a basic question.
It's a great question.
Yeah, right, because you guys make it sound amazing, but as of right now, I don't have any idea where I'm going.
So, there are posters that are up in public libraries on Market Street and Corning, for example, and other public venues, but the easy way to find out more is go to artsinbloom.org.
We've got that up on the screen, artsinbloom.org.
And you will see bios of each artist, a description of each gallery and who's going to be there, and there's a map. So that's really helpful to help you get around.
Where would you recommend they start?
It kind of depends on which direction they're coming from. A lot of people will take one day to do like the Elmira area and a second day to do Corning area. So you can plan your route. I would say go to all of them or a few of them.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can look, some of them are close to each other, so you might plan it, Corning, Market Street, and surrounding area, but start close to home and work your way through it.
Yeah, you can literally walk from my house to Lisa's. So.
Oh, perfect. That's the way to do it. Well, it's free and open to the public. That's Arts in Bloom this Saturday and Sunday. Have you always been on this side of it, been on like the studio, the art side? Have you ever just taken the tour yourselves?
I have.
I have, yeah.
It's fantastic fun.
Do you think it takes the full 2 days? Can you get it done in one day?
You
depends
probably could. Yeah.
Depends how long you want to stay in your location.
It just depends. Okay. Well, Arts and Blooms this Saturday and Sunday. Thanks so much for being on the show. Best of luck this weekend. Have fun. Good luck with cleaning.
Thank you. We're on it.
All right. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
This is one of the busiest highways in America. Thousands of trucks travel up and down it all hours of the day, and big trucks can cause catastrophic injuries. That's when you need the power of William Mattar, the largest motor vehicle accident firm in the state. At William Mattar, we only handle motor vehicle accident cases, and we fight for big money and big results. Hurt in a car, only call William Mattar.
Yeah, hello. I'm really not sure if this is what you all do, but I really don't have anywhere else to turn.
Hi. I don't even know why I'm calling right now. I'm sorry. My thoughts are going a mile a minute.
My kids are out of state. My buddies from the army are all gone now. I'm really alone.
I left the service last year. My mom just passed away a few months ago. I miss so much time with her. I keep getting calls about the bills, and I'm trying to get a job, but I feel so stuck.
Okay, ma'am. I'm glad you called.
Okay, sir. Let's stay on the line and walk through some things.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers. We can enjoy a comfortable day out there. Temperatures a bit on the warm side with 68, some sunshine and a west-northwest wind. A bit on the mild side overnight, partly cloudy skies, low near 40, then low 60s on Friday. Friday night through Saturday, and Saturday night is the next widespread chance for some showers. Then drying out on our Sunday and Monday. Additional rain expected come Tuesday and Wednesday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Koenig. We want to thank our friends from Arts in Bloom. Let's go to some viewer comments here. Mark writes in, New York City voted in Mamdani, so Hochul is banking on New York City. So this makes the rest of the state mostly a non-factor in the election. And I've heard a ton of people saying she will get back in because of New York City. Yeah, I mean, that's always the problem with the governor's race. I mean, you've got a scenario, yes, my chair was dropping. You've got a scenario where New York City, just by population, of course, is dominating. Now, I don't remember, numbers don't always stick in my head, but I want to say that if Republicans could get just 30%, may not even be that much, 30% of the vote in New York City, and then win overwhelmingly in upstate like they normally do, they could win. But yeah, New York City makes an uphill battle, and that's why it's a tough road to hoe ahead for Bruce Blakeman. I wanted to mention Congressman Langworthy, speaking of New York State issues, and this is specifically for Governor Hochul. Congressman Langworthy sent a letter to Governor Hochul demanding immediate action to bring New York in compliance with federal commercial driver's licenses and the requirements after the U.S. Department of Transportation withheld approximately $73 million in federal highway funding from the state. The funding penalty follows a federal motor carrier Safety Administration finding that New York was in substantial noncompliance with federal CDL laws after auditors found systematic failures in the state's non-domiciled CDL program, including licenses issued to non-U.S. citizens, and we remember that story from not that long ago where literally given the license that said no name given, that remained valid even after lawful work authorization had expired. A nationwide audit found that 53% of sampled licenses in New York were issued improperly. 53% of sampled licenses in New York were issued improperly. Congressman Langworthy said Governor Hochul is putting $73 million of our federal funding and the safety of New Yorkers at risk, all in the name of her radical sanctuary state agenda. This is a very simple issue. Are we following the law or are we breaking it? Commercial drivers operate 80,000-pound tractor trailers, often traveling long distances and transporting hazardous materials, and stringent regulations exist for a reason. When over half of sampled licenses are issued illegally, that is a serious public safety failure. He warned, Congressman Langworthy, that allowing CDLs to remain active after a driver's legal status has expired creates dangerous gaps in oversight, making it harder to track and locate drivers, and raising serious concerns about whether driving history, medical certification, and testing standards were properly reviewed in the first place. He also emphasized the economic consequences for New York businesses that rely on commercial transportation. This, again, Congressman Langworthy. Governor Hochul's noncompliance is creating tremendous liability exposure for businesses across the state. If there is an accident involving a driver who no longer has legal status in the country and is driving with an illegally issued CDL, businesses are being opened up to massive legal and financial risk. New Yorkers are being punished twice, losing federal funding we deserve and being forced to shoulder the consequences of Albany's failure to follow the law. He called on Governor Hochul to immediately fully comply with federal CDL requirements, including review and revoking licenses issued without proper verification of lawful status, implement safeguards ensuring ongoing verification and compliance with a federal licensing requirement, and restore New York's eligibility for federal transportation funding by bringing the state back into alignment with national safety regulations. Finally, the congressman said, the people of New York deserve the highest standard of safety on our roads. This should not be partisan. It is about protecting lives, protecting businesses, and respecting the taxpayer, who deserve better than a reckless political agenda that puts their tax dollars and safety at risk. As I mentioned, New York lawmakers passed the 6th state budget extender that will now run through April 27th. Now, again, the budget was due April the 1st. Major differences between Hochul and the Democrat-led legislature over her proposal to reform the state's car insurance laws is an effort to lower rates and to dial back the 2019 climate law. That's the real sticking point. Are the sticking points, as well as differences over raising taxes, you guessed it, on the wealthy. School aid, Tier 6 pension reform, and Hochul's measure to create a 25-foot protest buffer around places of worship. So that's the sticking points to those that had talked earlier, or why can't Democrats get this done? It's all Democrats negotiating with Democrats. Well, that's the reason. Because the one group, I know, I had to lift up my chair. The one group wants to be even farther left than Governor Hochul. So that is what we're dealing with. State Senator Tom O'Mara, friend of Frankly Speaking, he was on the program Monday, joined by Assemblyman Joe Simpolinski and Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. O'Mara joined members of the Senate and Assembly Republican Conference, including Assemblyman Robert Smullen and economic representatives from the American Legislative Exchange Council, to hold a press conference addressing New York's ongoing economic challenges, including its high tax burden, persistent outmigration, and long-term affordability crisis. The lawmaker focused on the need for structural fiscal reforms to improve New York's economic competitiveness and reverse population loss trends that have accelerated in recent years. Speakers highlighted New York's continued ranking in the Richest States, Poor States Index, which places, get this, places New York State 50th in economic outlook for the 11th consecutive year. We are the worst in economic outlook in consecutive polls for 11 years. The index evaluates states based on tax policy, regulatory environment, and spending levels. O'Mara also noted that the Tax Foundation's most recent Tax Competitive Index also speaks volumes. According to the Foundation's latest analysis, New York State also continues to rank 50th worst in the nation in their index that evaluates the tax climate in all 50 states in America in 5 major areas: corporate taxes, individual income taxes, sales and excise taxes, property and wealth taxes, and unemployment insurance taxes. For the 5th straight year, New York comes in at the bottom. Senator Tom O'Mara said New Yorkers, why is my chair doing that? O'Mara said New Yorkers need state government to do more than just talk about how hard it is to make ends meet or how unaffordable it is to live, work, and raise a family in New York. It's time to do something about it. It's time to address the root cause of unaffordability in the state, especially high taxes, out-of-control spending, overzealous regulations and mandates, and energy policies that lack common sense, among others. The Albany Democrats in charge talk about New York State's affordability crisis, but their action continues to show that they have no real interest in turning things around. Their vision for New York remains a vision built on irresponsible spending billions upon billions of taxpayer dollars. So thank you to Tom O'Mara. And that leads, we're going to talk more about these high taxes, but I wanted to mention this as well. I didn't forget to play this. We ran out of time yesterday. Let's hear from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano on a quick update or rallying cry against EV bus mandates.
Have you heard about the recent Tesla fire that took place? It took fire departments longer to put out that fire than the other fires that fire created. Now think for a minute, what if it was your kids on an electric school bus? We need to start putting the safety of our children first in this discussion. We need to pump the brakes, not just pump the brakes, slam the brakes on this electric school bus mandate. The replacement costs alone are going to be nearly $20 billion. Then you have the charging infrastructure costs, the electric infrastructure upgrades. This is the mother of all unfunded mandates. This is politically driven. It was all done without a cost-benefit analysis, a feasibility analysis, or a safety analysis. On top of that, here's the hypocrisy of this. New York State is requiring local school districts and property taxpayers to convert their entire heavy-duty bus fleets by 2035, a full 5 years before the state of New York has to convert their fleet. Why are we asking school districts and local property taxpayers to be the guinea pig for this social experiment? Our people deserve better.
We thank Assemblyman Phil Palmisano for that. We'll read some comments when we return. But first, I don't know how to say the fancy term for this tax that Governor Hochul is proposing. I'm going to try pied et terre tax. And what the idea is, in New York City, if you own a second home, So basically a wealth tax on the wealthy. If you own a second home, it's an exorbitant tax. Well, now we have upstate Democrats pushing for the same. So keep this in mind if you maybe have a place on Keuka Lake. Upstate Democrat lawmakers, or any of our Great Finger Lakes, upstate Democrat lawmakers want a piece of the extra revenue pie Governor Hochul is serving in New York City by taxing luxury second homes in the 5 boroughs. Last week, Hochul announced a new late budget fight, as she tends to do, proposing a pied-à-terre tax on second homes in New York City worth $5 million or more that are not rented out full-time or listed as the owner's primary residence. Details remain scarce with no official language released to lawmakers or the public because everything has been done behind closed doors and not released to the public. But Hochul estimates it will generate a reoccurring $500 million for the city per year to help chip away at a projected $5.4 billion deficit. State Senator Pat Fay told City and State that plenty of upstate communities like Saratoga Springs, Lake George, and Lake Placid have high-value second homes that owners leave vacant for most of the year, which should be subject to the tax. Okay. Well, there you go. Anything downstate can do, upstate can do better if you give it to the one-party rule of Democrats in Albany. All right, we got to take a short break. I see some comments coming in. Stay with us. Man, this is going quickly. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Accidents happen. If you're looking for an honest, dependable, trustworthy auto repair shop, bring it to Nappy's. Or if it's undrivable, have it towed right to us. It's your choice where to take your vehicle. Nappy's works with all insurance companies and will manage all vehicle calibrations. Nappy's has a state-of-the-art paint booth and a new and improved repair shop. Let our friendly staff of specialists help you through the process and get it done right the first time. Commit to Nappy's, family-owned for 3 generations.
Thank you for your business. Nappy's Auto Body done right.
We are the keepers of the wild, America's original and most invested conservationists. For more than 80 years, we've been committed to conserving wildlife and the natural landscapes that define our nation. From rugged alpine ridgelines to peaceful tall grass prairies, we've supported the conservation of more than 36 million acres of American wildlands. Our funding has led to cleaner water, fresher air, and improved wildlife habitat. From abundant fish and waterfowl populations to robust deer and elk herds, nothing is more important than maintaining wild spaces for adventurers to explore and wildlife to thrive. We are America's hunters and target shooters, stewards of the American outdoors.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. This viewer points out that 18 climate activists were arrested outside the governor's office on Tuesday. This was because they're upset that Governor Hochul is even trying to make minuscule changes to the climate policy. I had that in my stack yesterday. I don't think we ever got to it. I actually had the names of people. I wondered if there's anybody local. There wasn't. They were all from the city-ish. But yes, those protesters, and this has been a common reoccurrence, that they are protesting, not even know what Hochul wants to change. They just don't want any change to the climate law, to the climate policy. So that's one of the things she's dealing with, because the people she's negotiating with are terrified of those far left environmental protesters, just like Hochul is too. But Hochul, I think, wants to do climate policy, changes the climate policy like she did the bail reform. Not really change it, not give it any more or less teeth, just so she can say that she did something and go around on her victory tour. Rick writes in, good morning, Frank. Good morning, Rick. Let's let Navy Secretary go in the middle of the war. That's okay. We still have Pentagon Pete to run the show. Hey, how come Trump's approval rating is only at 37%? Why did the FBI investigate the New York Times reporter that wrote an article about Kash Patel's girlfriend? Must be old 12-pack Kash. Pick that up out of Trump's playbook. This part I like, Rick. John Kerry says Trump has to get Iran to agree with what they already agreed to. Okay, I know I'm not going to say you lose credibility by suggesting that John Kerry is the negotiator on this and was successful with that Iranian deal. I mean, I remember that Iranian deal at the time that it was reported that Secret Service actually had to go into the meeting area because John Kerry was being screamed at by the Iranians. The weakest negotiation, embarrassing to the country. But I'll continue. John Kerry says Trump has yet to get Iran, or has to get Iran to agree with what they already agreed to. The U.S. had the Iran issue fixed, no kidding, until Trump's first term. The heck you say? We had all of Iran was fixed. I wonder why we had to bomb their potential nuclear weapon buildup. If you're to trust, I guess, the inspectors, as Obama and Kerry blindly did. We'll continue. Kerry said the U.S. had an agreement that included Europe, China, and Russia as stakeholders. I don't know what else you need along with nuclear inspectors on the ground. And if they abide by the agreement, which they didn't, to the United States would free up and return some of their frozen assets. Trump breaks the agreement and lets Iran run rampant the last 8 years. Smart move. Yep, that's an interesting one to put on Trump. Okay, let's see. Ken writes in, did you see the Virginia election map showing the blue counties and red counties in the gerrymandering vote? It looks like every state in the nation's election maps. Almost every rural county in every state votes Republicans. And in almost every country, or in every county, that has major cities in it, it votes Democrat. Why is that? Could it be that in cities with large populations, one, the Democrats offer the most work-free social programs? Larger city populations make it easier to promote voter fraud. It's harder for Republicans to get their message out and establish Democrat strongholds. Those cities have the largest illegal immigrant population who, wink, wink, can't vote, but may have registered through social programs, and voter complacency is rampant on the right. Why bother voting? The Democrats always win. All of those issues make it a tall hill to climb for Republicans. I agree, Ken, and I do appreciate you putting that all together. And a couple more here. Democrats do things only behind closed doors with no transparency. Who knew? The sinister donkeys. Yeah, that's in New York City, or New York City, Albany that we were talking about. All of it's behind closed doors. We've known nothing about the process. And that happens every year. Finally, regarding the raising of taxes on the rich, does this mean that if you happen to have been lucky enough to have won the lotto, that you would be taxed as if you were a well-off millionaire? Not that I think that anyone should be taxed more than anyone else. In other words, that taxes should be such that anyone would pay their fair share, no more, no less. And that's why in the past we've talked about kind of that flat tax where it's everybody gets 10% or 20%, whatever the case may be. So thank you for that. Well, let's keep continuing. Mark says tax people with 2 houses is another way to make them leave New York State. Great point. And what about people who rent houses out that will hurt the economy? Stupid Democrats, when will they learn? Well, it's a mass exodus in New York. Oh, we got a wave there. And I thought I saw another comment coming in. Reckless Rick needs to start dealing with reality, not the fantasy world he lives in. Thank you very much. Mamdani picked a, what was the name? Felisa Wisdom. Picked a woman to fight anti-Semitism. The Mamdani administration's pick to lead an office tasked with fighting Jewish hate couldn't define the word anti-Semitism. This was during a testy Wednesday city council meeting. It got so heated that one frustrated politician actually stormed out. Felisa Wisdom, who was tapped last month for Mayor Zohran Mamdani's office to combat anti-Semitism, so it's actually in her title, anti-Semitism, said that she could not define the term and that it would be approached with a case-by-case approach. That's always a good way to define something, by a case-by-case approach. Quote, the first thing I'll say is that across city government, there's not a definition codified for any form of hate at all. So the way that we combat hate and that our colleagues at NYPD address these incidents is without a codified definition. The standoff comes after Mamdani, a fierce Israel critic, some have accused him of anti-Semitism, signed an executive order on his first day in office dropping the Big Apple's official definition of anti-Semitism, which was backed by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. Wisdom doubled down on not, ironic name by the way, doubled down on not using a definition, even when pressed further on the question. She said it's understood broadly in the universe of civil rights. The policy of the administration is that we will continue to not have any codified definition of any form of hate. We have 2 kids in the mayor's office deciding on a case-by-case basis on what constitutes anti-Semitism and hate. I've never seen an administration that cannot define what hate is or anti-Semitism. said Jewish Brooklyn Councilman Samicha Felder. Other witnesses were flabbergasted. The mayor's office to combat anti-Semitism is a token gesture to the Jewish community with zero action, said Moshe Spern, the president of the United Jewish Teachers. I sat there and heard that there is no way to contact Miss Wisdom and that they refuse to adopt the definition of anti-Semitism. There you go. Now, get this. This is how radical some, especially New York City, the left has become. There are some on the far left that are actually turning on Mamdani because he isn't left enough. An avowed Democrat Socialist of America. We'll talk about that quickly when we return, maybe, if we even have time. Stay with us. Just about to wrap up today's edition.
Every year, millions fly with us at Allegiant because together, we go places. We see old friends and try new things. We laugh. We really like to laugh. And reconnect. We remember. And we wander, which leads to wonder. From how we go to where we go to what we do when we get there, we go further together.
When a child is fighting a critical illness, one truth touches us all. Every child deserves a childhood. A wish sparks a ripple of hope that transforms communities far and wide. And when we grant wishes together, we create a movement of kindness, strength, and unity. Become a wishmaker today and be part of a journey that truly changes lives.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers. We can enjoy a comfortable day out there. Temperatures a bit on the warm side with 68, some sunshine and a west-northwest wind. A bit on the mild side overnight, partly cloudy skies, low near 40, then low 60s on Friday. Friday night through Saturday, and Saturday night is the next widespread chance for some showers. Then drying out on our Sunday and Monday. Additional rain expected come Tuesday and Wednesday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. So as I mentioned, the New York City mayor, Zohran Mamdani, has been heckled at Gracie Mansion, shouted down at events, and slandered, not by people from the right, but those on his own side. He's also been accused, confusingly, of being pro-Israel and of not doing enough for trans people. Socialist congressional candidates have even taken to using him as a boogeyman to promote their even more radical agendas. So to those, many on the left, and specifically in New York, Mamdani isn't far left enough. It's barely been 100 days since Mamdani was sworn into office, and already he is losing the left. As was said during the French Revolution of 1793, the revolution devours its children. Wow. The AOC-ification, because remember, AOC is getting the same kind of pushback. The AOC-ification of Mamdani has taken place at lightning speed, said Kusmam Swant, a former Seattle City Council member running for the House of Representatives. There's only one way to break with the endless cycle of disappointment and betrayal from so-called progressives and socialist Democrats, breaking with both blood-stained parties of war and genocide. The AOC-ification of Zohran Mamdani is a phrase that's going to live in my brain rent-free. All right, quickly, the DHS touts a new critical tool after a Mexican national is caught voting illegally in a United States election. Let's see, do we have time to go through a couple things? Far-left students hijacked a UCLA event which involved the Homeland Security's top lawyer. No ICE, no KKK, no fascist USA was their chant. Students repeatedly booed throughout the remarks, while others held up profane signs. I can't read those signs clearly, yelling that he's a Nazi. The protests carried into the event's closing moments. Wow. All right, that does it. One other thing. 8 hate group leaders, including KKK, Imperial Wizards, and neo-Nazis, got millions from Southern Poverty Law Center as part of an informant scheme, according to the DOJ. The Alabama-based nonprofit was charged by the Department of Justice with wire fraud, bank fraud, and money laundering conspiracies for allegedly hiding from donors the fact that it doled out more than $3 million over the course of nearly a decade to field sources. The field sources were paid secretly. We talked about this quite extensively yesterday, but imagine donating to something like the Southern Poverty Law Center and knowing that it went to these organizations like this and what that money could have been used for. I hate, well, we're not going to go through all the different, but like just like the certain rallies. But we're out of time for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to our friends from the Arts in Bloom Studio and Gallery Tour for being on the program this morning. Tomorrow we're going to be talking with Apple Ridge and Bompa's house, so don't miss that. And we'll be, as always, taking your comments, your questions, your concerns, and your waves. So join us every weekday morning starting at 6 for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV Big Fox. We'll see you tomorrow morning bright and early. Look forward to it already.
The declaration of deals is here, and it's exploding into April at Chilson Wilcox. Drive home a Ram 1500 and save over $6,400. Plus, get 2.9% for 72 months or 4.9% for 84. And this comes with the best powertrain warranty in the business. 10 years, 100,000 miles. Or save up to $8,400 on a 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee. But hurry, only 13 left. They all must go. As always, get the highest trade-in values. Period. These deals won't last. When they're gone, they're gone.